everybody, and welcome to the November 3rd Board of Public Affairs meeting. First on the agenda will be to approve the minutes of the October 20th meeting, regular meeting. If you've all been presented with the minutes, do you see any additions, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I move that we accept the minutes board meeting October 20th.
I'll second.
Tom?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Annette? Yes. Karen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda will be a hearing of public concerns. There was a dial-in number provided. We'll just hesitate here for about 30 seconds if we have any calls. If not, we'll proceed. Okay, next on the agenda will be a discussion regarding the communications fiber and Coax lease. Dawn, would you like to start that conversation?
Sure, thank you. I have a few slides to share with you this evening. We're going to run through. I know that everybody is itching to get home and watch the results of the election. So I'll run through. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to stop me. So as many of you are aware, we have a fiber and coax lease between the communications fund and the electric fund. And so to do a quick background so that if there's anyone that isn't completely aware, we can run through the facts real quick. In 1996, the electric utility had a copper communication lines and we're looking to upgrade that system to a fiber optic system, excuse me. And in 1997, the Board of Public Affairs had a feasibility study completed for the possibility of forming a cable and internet utility. And in that same year, issued a contract to construct the fiber backbone around the city to meet the needs of the utility and to connect our local schools together. With the feasibility study, they polled the local community, and at that time, more than 85% of Bryan customers supported the BPA's decision to utilize the network facilities to provide cable and internet services to the city of Bryan customers. Next slide, please. Next slide here. There you go. So fast forward, in May of 1998, Council passed the legislation which authorized the BPA to establish the communications utility. And later that year, authorized an interfund loan from the electric department to the communications department for a total of about $2.5 million, which was utilized to fund infrastructure, working capital, and initial operating and maintenance funding. The infrastructure design was for the electric department to retain ownership of the fiber optic and coax cable system, while the communications department would retain ownership of the head end and the man electronics. Next slide, please. So from there, in 2001, BMU and the communications utility added internet services, and currently our fiber optics are used for a multitude of reasons. But for Bryan City Schools, it interconnects the school buildings and facilities. For our own Bryan City government, it interconnects our city departments. Water and wastewater departments use the fiber for their SCADA operations. And the electric department uses the fiber lines for SCADA, pilot wire for the transmission line, connections to turbine and generators, and monitoring electric loads from AEP and outside the city. Next slide, please. So BMU hired a consulting engineer to establish a 20-year business plan, at which time the BPA passed in 2001. And the business plan established an annual lease payment for communications to lease infrastructure from the electric department to deliver its products until the electric department was made whole. In 2003, the BPA passed a resolution further describing the ownership of BMU Communications Plant and portions of the fiber coax plant it uses for their functions and purchases with their funds. In 2009, the director at that time led a discussion with BPA on the communications fiber and coax system lease payments and noted a specific set dollar amount was needed to be determined to make the electric department whole. Next slide, Eric, please. So from the discussion, the BPA confirmed the best method was to determine the value of the communication system and set the final amount that would still be owed after payments made would be taken out consideration. The consulting engineer's estimate determined that the value was $2,187,602.50. And that was the cost it would be to build a similar system. And so Resolution 59, 2001 was passed, and it set the terms for the lease payments to pay the remaining unpaid balance at that time of $918,420 over a maximum term of 10 years. So changes made since that term was set. In September of 2013, the BPA approved the acceleration of loan payments for the communications original interfund loan with the electric department. And in return, the payments that were established for the fiber and coax lease were reduced. So we did not stick to the schedule. In 2016, the final payment was authorized and completed for the communications fund to the electric fund for the interfund loan. And so it was paid in full in 2016. So now we have the remaining lease. So as of December 31st of 2019, that 10-year term was up. So for the 2017 budget, the fiber and coax lease payments went from $12,000 per year to $35,000, and the 2019 and 2020 communications budget included a budgeted $50,000 total for principal and interest payment. Next slide, please. So in 2009, the Board of Public Affairs established the lease payment based on the total cost of the fiber coax plant. And like I had said, it was to be paid over a 10-year. The current balance is $369,067 or $67.35 as of December 31st. Resolution 49, 2019 set the $50,000 payment amount for principal and interest, and it also provided a 1-year term limit extension, which is what's prompting the conversation now. So next. So right now, currently, at the next board meeting, we will be presenting the 2021 draft budget to the board. Currently, in that 2021 budget, we have an estimated $50,000 for principal and interest if approved by the BPA. But we needed to come before you tonight and discuss this as the 1-year extension ends on December 31st of 2020. We would like to have board direction for the amount that we should include in the 2021 budget and for the future terms and conditions of future payments for the lease. Does the board want to continue to revisit this on an annual basis, or how should we proceed with the remaining balance that's owed to the electric department?
I have a question, Don. What does Joe say? I mean, how does he feel about going forward? I mean, what are his recommendations?
Well, I don't want to speak for him. You know, I guess it depends on what the future is. The amounts owed, and unless there's something that I'm unaware of, the communications department owes the electric utility. So we've bounced a couple ideas back and forth. You know, we feel that 50,000 is a sustainable amount, but specifically, we've even talked about, you know, do we escalate this? Do we take a recommendation to the board to escalate this and pay this off quicker? But the problem is we need to know the direction, and with everything going on, we're not entirely sure the time frame in which we have.
Dawn,
It would make sense. Go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to say, under our current situation, wouldn't it make sense, I guess, unless somebody has some recommendation, something that I'm not realizing, wouldn't it make sense to continue to review it? I assume it's been like this
Right.
since the beginning. And I would say, the way things are right now, I guess I don't know how else to put it. It makes sense to me that maybe we should continue to keep an eye on it.
Review it once a year.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah, that would make more sense, wouldn't it, to visit it annually, not knowing what may happen in 2021.
Yeah, if times change, it might be worth reconsidering. But I think at least for the present, it would be good to continue.
I agree with both of you, and I think it's a good thing just to visit it every year. And for the same reasons Jim gave, the uncertainty, we don't know what's going to happen with the situation we're in now. So visiting it on a yearly basis would be fine with me.
Yeah, it allows for flexibility too. So if something does pop up, we're not locked in long term with an arrangement.
Right.
Dawn,
Because then if you do, go ahead, Annette.
sorry,
For Karen.
Nick. I was just wondering if there was any reason why we would want to consider increasing or decreasing. Has there been a change in our account balance that would prompt a change or?
No, the reason that the lease didn't get paid off with the original schedule is because they had changed the schedule in order to pay off the other loan quicker. And once that happened, the lease amounts didn't get immediately increased. So there was a little bit of a lag in time. So it started with 50,000 to try and make up for some of that and make a good faith effort of trying to pay the lease down.
It's only my opinion, but it seems to me that with our current finances and the way the economy or the lack of the predictability of the economy, I'd have a hard time voting for, I guess, basically anything different than the way we have it set up right now.
Okay.
I would agree with Jim, because, you know, we don't know what 2021 is going to bring for sure.
No, we don't.
And then I think that if we're in this same situation next year at this time and things are really back to normal or even better, maybe we can maybe just do 100,000 maybe next in the 2022 budget.
Right.
So if I'm hearing the board correctly, at the next meeting, I'll bring a resolution before you, extending that lease term for one more year through December 31st of 2021, and stick with the 50,000 principal and interest payment that we've made the last couple years.
Great.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, because I would be afraid if you tried to do a set amount, let's say $50,000 for the next 5 years, and something happens, then you're into a default situation. And I think it'd just be better to visit it every year under the current climate, and let's see what happens.
Mhm.
I agree.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank
Any other questions about that, or? Well, I think you have a direction, Dawn, so. Okay, next on the agenda will be a resolution. Could you please number and read, Laura?
Resolution number 41, 2020, authorizing the dissolution and transfer of the generator maintenance fund.
Dawn, would you like to lead that discussion?
Sure. So beginning with Resolution 30 from 1999, BMU calculates and transfers 10 mils per kilowatt hour generated from the power plant generation from the electric 501 operating fund to the 402 generator maintenance fund. This calculation is based on a term from December of one year through November of the following year. So currently, just to give you a little bit of history, the Interfund transfers for the last several years have totaled in 2016, $22,010, 2017, $15,170, 2018, $26,066. So as you could see, it's typically in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, but it's solely dependent on what the generation is from the power plant. It does not include the Auglaize hydro facility. So during the budget process, Nate and I met with Lori from the clerk treasurer's office regarding the 2020 and 2021 budget and what our options are. And the recommendation was brought forward to consider the dissolution and transfer of the 402 electric generator maintenance fund and to transfer the funds into the 501 electric operating fund. So we went ahead and thought, well, that actually isn't too bad of an idea. We went and discussed it with Power Plant Superintendent Jim Carresso, who is in support of this proposal. I also spoke at great lengths with John Courtney from Courtney and Associates. He also is in support of this recommendation. And so essentially what we're asking for is we're going to continue that calculation on the cover sheet of our power supply cost adjustment. But we're not actually going to make the physical transfer to restrict the funds into the 402. We're going to keep it in the 501 because ultimately a lot of the maintenance expenses for the power plant come out of the 501 anyway. And the amount generated from that charge is typically not enough to provide for the appropriations. I think the last calculation, I didn't see the information completely today. I know our finances came out, but as of last month, I believe there was around $243,000 in there. So we've been doing it for a long time. It doesn't accumulate a whole lot of money. And as you know, by the GT1 and GT2 projects, which we're paying for out of the 515 capital fund, typically anything that we do to those machines costs more than what we have available in that fund. So for ease of paperwork and also to lessen that expense on the 501 and help us with balancing our budget, to us, it makes sense to collapse that fund and not make that transfer each year. But we would, so I hope that I explained that as clearly as possible, and I would welcome any questions.
This is Karen. I don't have a question, but to me, it's streamlining the process and it's taking away extra work that it takes to make those transfers, track that. And if there's no purpose in tracking that separately, then I'm all for combining it.
Yeah, I think Karen got it right. I agree.
I agree.
I also forgot to mention that Lori did reach out to the auditor's office, and we did get a go-ahead before bringing this to you as well. So from what we can tell, this seems to be the way to do things.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a resolution or a motion to adopt resolution 41.
This is Jim. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 41.
This is Karen. I'll second.
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Annette.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is another resolution. Could you please number and read, Laura?
Resolution number 42, 2020, authorizing the transfer from the 501 Electric Fund to the 515 Electric Capital Reserve Fund.
Nate, would you like to start that discussion?
Sure. Good afternoon. The next three items on your agenda will be very similar in nature. I guess we'll just go through them one at a time, starting with this one. As you know, in the past, in 2017 and 2018, the board authorized the establishment of an electric, water, communication, minimum cash reserve policy. As such, the Electric, Water, and Communication Capital Reserve Fund was created. All operating fund balances are currently exceed minimum cash amounts. So what we're asking for is to, we're recommending that the BPA consider the transfer of $1 million from the electric to the Capital Reserve Fund that was included in the 2020 budget. As of September 2020, the cash fund balances, the electric fund balance above the established minimum fund balance of $9,500,000. The combined electric capital reserve balances are $14,071,141. This provides cash funding for projects in 2020 electric capital improvements. Being further recommended to transfer be considered and recommended to City Council components. The fund will remain in their respective capital reserve fund balances relating to 2021 appropriations. Anybody have any questions on the question?
Any questions, comments, discussions? Yeah, so just so everybody understands what we're doing.
Seems logical to me.
I'm sorry, Jim?
I say it seems logical to me.
Yeah. So I'll entertain a motion that we adopt resolution 42.
This This is Jim. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 42.
This is Tom, I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Annette,
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is another resolution. Could you please number and read, Laura?
Resolution number 43, 2020, authorizing the transfer from the 502 Water Fund to the 525 Water Capital Reserve Fund.
Nate?
Yeah, this is similar to the last one. This is a recommendation that the BPA consider the transfer of $37,682.34 from the water to the Water Capital Reserve Fund that was included in 2027. As of September 2020, the cash fund balance, if we keep the balance above the previously established minimum fund balance of $1,480,000. The combined water and water capital reserve balances are $1,965,924. Whereby cash funding for the projected 2021 water capital improvements, we further recommend the transfer be considered the recommended city council. The funds will remain in the cash capital reserve fund balance awaiting the 2021 appropriation.
Any questions or comments? Basically the same thing we're doing with electric. Now I'll entertain a motion. We adopt resolution number 43.
This is Tom. I'll move that we adopt resolution number 43.
This is Annette. I'll second it.
Tom,
Yes.
Annette,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is another resolution. Could you please number and read again, Laura?
Resolution number 44, 2020, authorizing the transfer and appropriation to the Communications Capital Reserve Fund.
So again, this is similar to the previous two. It's our recommendation that the BPA consider the transfer and appropriation of $52,250 from the communications fund to communications capital reserve fund. As of September 2020, cash fund balance to keep communications fund balance above the previously established minimum fund balance of $1,135,310. Combined communications and communications capital reserve balance of $2,239,878 to provide funding for projects 21 communications capital improvement. We further recommend transfer be considered and recommend that the city council complete terms. Funds will remain in the effective capital reserve fund balance awaiting the 21 appropriation. Any questions?
Any questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We adopt resolution number 44.
I will make a motion that we adopt resolution 44.
I will second.
Jim,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Annette.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is a request to hire a part-time laborer. Nate?
Yeah, we received a few applications and we're going through. We expected a request to hire Chris Yeager, a part-time labor to assist in movie reading. Chris has experience working in route-based environment and some knowledge of route software. Filling this position is great with a part-time person will not increase the weekly hours to read, but provide the option for 2 employees to share the hours through the designated routes. So we were lucky to find somebody that had a little bit of experience in the routes of and stuff like that. And somebody that's excited. So basically being here to start this job. It looks like it's going to be a good job.
Thank you, Nate. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to hire Mr. Yeager as a part-time laborer.
Dick, this is Karen. I did have a question. Would this be a permanent position? Or considered to be a permanent?
It's a kind of a permanent part-time. We have one part-time person now that's reading, and it's kind of too much for one person. So between the two of them for a period of time, I don't know if more information or not, but part-time, I don't know if that's considered permanent. It's a permanent part-time.
Yeah, we intend to have Chris on with us. It's just a part-time person. It won't be a seasonal position. But this is one way that we had looked at reducing our budget and found that we could actually, with the workload, replace a full-time position with a part-time position. And so that's what you're hiring for this evening.
And this position would fall under the bargaining unit?
No, part-time position, so it's a non-bargaining position.
All right. Thank you. And Dick, if you're still interested, I will make a motion that we hire part-time laborer then.
Okay.
This is Tom, I'll second.
Karen,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Annette.
Yes.
Thank you all. Next on the agenda will be entertain a motion to pay the bills.
This is Jim. I'll make a motion. We pay the bills.
This is Annette. I'll second it.
Jim,
Yes.
Annette,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Okay. Next will be comments from BPA and staff. I'll mix it up this time. How about Laura?
That's nice, sir. Thank you.
Rhonda? You're still muted there, Rhonda.
Oh, excuse me. I have nothing for the regular agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
Yeah, I want to echo what I said at council last night regarding mask wearing. I can assure you that I don't like wearing my mask, but we do it here to, again, promote contact tracing issues, quarantine issues, and try to keep the city employees working. But with that being said, it is spreading pretty rapidly throughout the county. We are probably going to stay orange, but our incident rate is very high. I do get emails from the health department. They do post those on the website for the Williams County Health Department if you're interested in looking at that. But we want to still be able to do things with the community. And in order to do that, we have to really slow the spread here so that we don't end up like Putnam County, who's having a huge problem right now. So the sooner we can get accustomed to wearing our masks, I think the better off we will be. So thank you.
I agree with you 100%. I don't like wearing them either, but it's just the responsible thing to do. Thank you, Mayor. Dawn.
No, thank you.
Nate?
Well, I'd just like to, if the state polls are open till 7:30, I encourage everybody to get out there and get their voice heard. This is your opportunity, so I'll just encourage everybody to get out there and vote if they have. I'd also like to thank the city and the mayor for the Halloween proactively that they did for the kids in the community. Appreciate doing things like that for them, and I just wanted to give them a shout out and thank you for that. And that's all I
Thank you,
have.
Nate. Thank you. Mr. Salsbury.
Thanks, Dick. I really don't have anything to add other than I agree with Nate. I strongly encourage anybody that hasn't voted to get out there and vote.
Annette.
I guess I'd just like to welcome Chris Yeager aboard, and that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Sprow.
Yes, ditto to Annette, and just welcome Chris Yeager on our team. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Karen?
I concur with everyone else, Nate and the mayor, and wish you all well. Thank you.
Okay, I'd just like to say I'd like to welcome Mr. Yeager on board as our part-time labor meter reader. And also, November 11th is Veterans Day. We won't have a board meeting before that. So I'd just like to welcome all my fellow veterans. Happy Veterans Day, and thank you for your service. And that's about all I have. So next we'll be going into executive session to discuss imminent litigation and the employment and compensation of a public employee. And you've all been provided with the link to go into executive session, and we shall see you there. Thank you.